WordPress has lost its goddamn mind and has gone into garbage fire mode. This is not at all my usual type of video, but I think it's really important to highlight two critical things that are going to affect you as a business owner, particularly if you are a marketing funnel builder or a funnel builder in general, and you use WordPress in your system. So for those who don't know, WordPress is kind of like a framework that a lot of people use to build websites. As of late, in the last 6 months, they have essentially lost their goddamn mind. This all comes down to this guy called Matt Mullenweg, who, contrary to popular belief, was not the person who founded WordPress. He co-founded it along with a guy called Mike Little, right? I'll talk about Mike in a bit because I've got a lot of time and respect for Mike. Matt Mullenweg, on the other hand, who I've met a handful of times, I didn't particularly like him when I met him. There's two companies, WordPress.com and WordPress.org, and there's a third company called WP Engine. WP Engine, I believe, is like the largest hosting platform for WordPress specific sites on the internet now. And Matt Mullenweg who co-founded WordPress, decided, I don't think that they contribute enough to the WordPress ecosystem. The idea behind WordPress is that it's open source, right? Which means that all of the users, the community, a core group of them are able to contribute to it and make it better. Now, in actual fact, I found that it's already top 1% of 1% of 1% of people who use it. I know a few people who contribute to it regularly. I have been on retreats and been to work things and events where, I'm meeting plugin builders, but contributions that actually make it to the final release have been by a very, very small number. But that's not just it. It's things like help and user manuals. It's instructions. It's security updates. There's all this type of stuff, right? Matt Mullenweg decided that WP Engine wasn't doing enough. And his whole kind of bandwagon crusade that he went on was about how WP Engine was backed by a private equity company and that they're just using an open source project like WordPress to make a ton of money. Now, that is true. I've got no love for private equity companies. I think they ruin companies just like anybody else. It's an interesting thing from Matt because one of his biggest investors is BlackRock. My controversial take on this is that Matt, as unlikable as he is, actually has kind of a right to do what he wants with his products and his services. In my humble opinion, if I bring something to market, even if it's open source, I personally don't believe that the whole world gets to decide how I use it. Personally, I don't think that's true. Now, he has a company called Automatic, which has got his name in it, M-A-T-T, all right? Aside from that, Automatic contributes quite a lot to WordPress.org. Now, WordPress.org, I think, is the charity that actually holds the WordPress kind of like the self-install packet. If you've ever downloaded that little zip file and thrown it up to your own server, that's what they're kind of annoyed about. WordPress.com is kind of like Squarespace and Wix, where you can go and create your own website, but they use the same basic framework. But WordPress.org is really where all the problems are, because a company like WP Engine is using the free open source project from from WordPress.org and letting people install it, and they're making a lot of money. And they are making a lot of money. My actual problem with this is how Matt is handling it. For those who know Mike Little, who I've met a bunch of times, Mike's actually been a customer of mine a few times. If you've ever had a conversation with Mike, my question is always, why isn't he running it? And in a classic sense of sort of self-preservation and like beautiful, tasty irony, he's actually exponentially more likable, in my opinion, more knowledgeable, and he's so much more helpful. Like, I have had conversations with Mike Little, which is always insane to me, where he has helped me with my site, the guy who invented it essentially and built it, right? And which is mind-boggling to me. And yet he's not the face of it at all, and I don't think he wants to be. The real question comes, though, with what's going to happen with your business. Now, I highly recommend watching this from Fireship. If you're not watching Fireship videos already, you absolutely should. I think they're absolutely fascinating. I'm not a developer or a coder, but I'm constantly watching this stuff. Some of the stuff, the drama that Matt has done, it's really stupid shit, like He then installed this login form on the WordPress.org site that meant I'm not affiliated with WP Engine in any way, financially or otherwise. Now, full disclosure, I was with WP Engine. I've now moved it to the high-level self-hosted WordPress stuff, partly because it was cheaper. It seemed to be just as fast for me, and I can resell it to my customers much easier. It was a concern to me because I was like, there were loads of structures being put in place that would prevent me from being able to do plugin updates and things like this. And I was like, the hell with this. Now, I have been thinking, do I even need to be on WordPress anymore? The majority of my sites are built on high level. And what's really interesting is I used to be a WordPress coach, especially around WordPress-based funnels and WordPress-based marketing. And a lot of people would talk about how much they love WordPress. They'd be like, what's your favorite theme? What's your favorite plugin? And it was always really concerning to me. And we're now seeing the same thing with TikTok. Even though TikTok was banned and now it's coming back, but now it might be banned in Europe. Building your business around the platform is never a good idea. In theory, high level, which is where the majority of my business is now, if that went up in smoke tomorrow, I've still got my database. And the database is the important thing because I can move to any platform, upload the database, create a few sales pages, and my products are back up and running again. WordPress powers 45% of the internet. Some people have built their entire business on WordPress. Here's the reality. For the time being, your website and the structure of your website isn't going anywhere. There is a possibility that Matt Mullenweg goes full dictatorial mode and ends up like that guy from Apocalypse Now and ends up completely taking ownership over everything and deciding who and what gets access to the resources from things like updates. It's also been around like the naming rights, like if you've got something like WP Funnels or WP content, can they continue to use that? Do they then have to give a percentage of their money to Matt, which I think personally is bullshit. I think that's like, you can't do that. People use WordPress as a colloquial term now, a bit like Google, when they're going to say they're going to search something. So to me, that's nonsense. But for the time being, this doesn't mean your website is going anywhere. But it does raise a really interesting question as whether you should be building your business around other people's platforms and softwares. Because this happens all the time. It happens with Facebook, it's happened with Instagram, it's happened with Twitter, it's happened with Vine, it's happened with TikTok, and now it's happening with WordPress. Tread carefully. I'd love to hear what your thoughts and comments are. I'm going to link to a bunch of this stuff down in the description if you want to read more about it. This is not like a typical sponsored post or anything like that. I just really think it's important to let you know kind of what's happening and what my thoughts are from it. Oh, and if you want a bit more drama, ClickFunnels is suing High Level. So you can go and watch that video here and see more on tech bros who seem to think that they can do whatever they want just because they made a bunch of money now.